with all the athletes you mentioned there and how great the Irish athletes got on in the Olympics, has it been the coaching that's caught up in the last 10, 15 years to give you that standard, or have we been just insanely blessed with just the right timing for athletes, or what do you attribute it to?
Yeah, I think I think that the sport has continuously been moving forward from day one, right? Like we
Mm.
kind of look like, but like every generation is actually always running faster, because there's more knowledge being applied, there's more learning being applied, we have more history to look back on, and then it's always like this: iron sharpens iron. So like when I went over to America to qualify for NCAA's in the mile my freshman year, you got in a 4:01. My sophomore year, which is your second year, at 3:59. Basically, now to qualify in the mile, you have to run a 3:55 to actually get to NCAA's. So everybody in the heat, like there's 2 or 3 heats at NCAA indoors, and everyone in it is a 3:55 miler or faster. But like that's what it does. Like at the end of the day, we're actually not out there to run times. We're out there to compete against each other. And if you run faster, well, then I have to run faster than you to beat you. And so that's what ends up bringing people on, and that's why now we see Olympic standards and world standards are fairly outrageous actually at the moment. Like, I mean, I think like the 5K, like, is to qualify, the automatic is like 13:08 in the 5K. Like that's insane. Like, I mean, so now of course you have these point scheme and all of that, but that's not the point. Is like that's where the standard has got to. And I think that's always the case. I think now you see in high schools, and especially in America, you see a lot of sub 4 minute miles. And I suppose that's just evolution, isn't it?
When you have that 3:55 to qualify for the Olympics is the goal you were saying there. But when I was watching the Olympics, a lot of it was in different heats. Well, this person runs late, this person, has a stronger finish, and he or she's raced against this person. They have to watch out for this, and this. But as a layman watching it, I'm like, well, if you hit a time, it's just about time. But then it's like racing the different people it is. You haven't been there in that absolute elite level. How much is it knowing the other person, or is it like literally just stick in your lane, run your race? How much does other people matter, or the arch rivals you talked about earlier?
Oh, like that's where it all comes out at the championships, because every race up until that point of the year has pacemakers in it, and everyone is trying to chase the Olympic standard. So they have pacemakers in. People don't really care if they get beat once they get their standard to get to the championships. And then next thing, everyone gets to the championships, and a lot of people like actually haven't practiced racing. And they don't know what to do. They don't know how to operate in a race that's actually run at 15 seconds, goes through the first half of, like, goes through the first 800 of the 1500 at like 15 seconds slower than their PB pace, and they're tripping over each other. And, that's then when it becomes a tactical race.
Right.
That's when, basically your race IQ comes in, and, knowing how to read the situation. And then also, like, are you confident in your kick? Because ultimately, more attributes of an athlete come into play in championship running, where like basically when it's a pace race, and like the biggest example of that is that Jakob Ingebrigtsen, right? Like the only time he's gotten beaten in the last few years is at the last 2 world championships and in the Olympics in the 1500, and every other race after that he hasn't been touched. And it's because like there's no pacemaker there to take out the first few laps to draw everyone out, because he's way stronger than everybody else. But when you bring it back to a race that's, ran a little bit slower and the kickers are there, like then you're bringing in those guys that have faster 800-meter PBs. And then also too, like it then comes down to also too, like how calm are you in a chaotic situation? And like that's what the beauty about championship running is, and I really like it, because it shows the full attributes of it as an athlete you need to have in order to be successful. And I think it's far more exciting. I think, yes, it's great seeing athletes run fast. We see enough of that throughout the year. I'm a massive Jakob Ingebrigtsen fan, but I think it's so exciting when he's almost been beaten, because like it just makes for
Yeah.
exciting watching, right? And then also, people going in there thinking they can have a clip off him. So, and I would have felt that too. Like I would have been probably a little bit stronger myself back in the day at pace racing. I would have been a bit more of a strength runner. I would have, gone through times in championship races where I would have felt a little bit unsure of what to do. And the other side of it is that like when you get to the championships, there is nothing between everyone. And if you're going to be the rabbit, that like everyone's going to be sitting on you. And then that guy in the front, all he's thinking about is, I hear all these lads sitting on me now. When are they going to come by? Like, what are they doing? And you start thinking about everyone in the race bar yourself, you know? And that's then when the race is lost as well.
And obviously in these races, and people are like, the strategies and stuff, they're the finest of margins that win or lose a medal. 0.001 of a second can cost you a medal. At what point in these races are you? Is it from the very start? Is it from when you're settling into the pack? What are you constantly making decisions on? I need to move up, or I can see him move. Are you basing it off other people's body language or their form? Are you studying them, their race styles? What do
Yeah.
you look at to make these decisions?
So let's take a 1500, for example. Like, of course, you're out there competing against others, so you have to read the race, but there's certain ways that running the race is better. So I'm a big believer in staying in on the rail because it's the shortest route. When you see people running in lane 2 or 3, if you actually add that up over the total distance, you ran longer. Okay. And then secondly, too, like, there's a lot of like unnecessary moves in the race. So like I remember like you know, Eamon Coughlin always said to me when I was a kid, he said 1500 meters, one move. You have one move and one move only. And I see a lot of the time guys in a race, if you watch the 1500, a guy is sitting back in 10th, and then on the second lap he makes a big surge up to 4th, and then by the third lap he's gone back to 10th again. And it's this yo-yoing. So that's a waste of time. Like if you look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he'll just sit at the back and then just move to the front, and then he goes from there. There is no up and down the field. But like you have to kind of like, I still think no matter what the way the race is run, there are certain key principles that help you run a race better. And like the 1500 is definitely a messier race than we'd say what the 5K would be, or the 10K. They tend to still be drawn out a bit more. The Africans like to kind of get the race going a bit sooner. But like the 1500 definitely is a very tactical race and a messy race. And I just would be one that I would say, get in on the rail, stay calm, and the gap always opens up. And like, yes, okay, people say, what if it doesn't? It does, because the natural instinct to do of people when they come off the final bend is to move wide, to push the ones that are coming around them out wide. Cole Hocker, we saw, got up the inside of Jakob Ingebrigtsen. You also see, like back in the day, Nick Willis, the New Zealand guy, he got his Olympic medal through that as well. It always happens. But I do think if you go back and study a lot of the races, there's some key decision making. I see people like running wide the whole time, yo-yoing up and down the field. That's all energy. And like, you know, you're just wasting it for, like, at the end of the day, most of the people in a 1500 get to 1200 meters together. And it's basically what you can do over the last 300 meters. And so, yeah, there is definitely tactics to it and a better way to read the race. And you can see that there's some people that are operators, and then others you're just like, that person there is a headless chicken. They need to learn how to race better, you know?